In a forgotten part of the city, untouched even by ghosts or gods, one man walks, cutting up a trail through the dust and the dirt. This city, this part of the city, exists exclusively for him, or it might as well be so. Off to the side of the abandoned district, Momozawa the Terrible moves across, just trying to get away for even a moment from the hustle and bustle of the city. You see your ox.
He looks over to his ox. What's his ox doing?
His ox is just sitting there, staring, you think.
He walks this way, briefly, and stands in front of his ox. And he reaches into his cloak, and then he pulls out what appears to be like a small satchel of like very strong grain. And he just tosses it on the ground in front of the ox.
The ox moves in and eats it appreciatively.
He turns around and continues to walk up the path.
You walk to the place that you spend a lot of your time. Perfectly balanced. It is a little tea house that you've constructed for yourself in the midst of this city. A remnant of another place. It gives you some sort of peace of mind. But something has thrown this into imbalance. Seems someone else is here. Look across the table. What do you see? As someone who is already sitting down, enjoying a cup of tea for herself. She sits and braces it up to her lips very gently and takes a deep, deep draught from it.
His eyes behind his face covering pierces straight through this person for a second as he silently walks up and sits down across from her. Hello there.
She looks across.
Hello, Momozawa the Terrible.
That is correct, and you are.
She pauses for a moment. You can see it. For a moment, she considers deception, but almost immediately lets it slip.
My name is Celicia. You can call me Seely.
She slides the teapot over to you.
He looks at this teapot. What's her teapot like?
Glass. Really nice burnished glass. It's like dyed a combination of brilliant colors.
Interesting. Nothing to hide then, I see.
She nods. And then takes a drink.
May I?
She nods.
He pours himself a cup of her tea. Then he reaches into his satchel and pulls out a small rectangular wooden plate, places it down in the center of the table, and then pulls out 2 white cubes and places them down on it.
She looks.
He takes the first one on the plate and drops it into his tea, beginning to slowly mix it and stir it, then lifting it underneath his mask and taking a sip.
She looks down.
May I?
You may.
She reaches down, and she's going to, similarly, take the remaining sugar cube. J-Man, what's it taste like?
The one you have received today tastes not the worst, honestly, but not what you were expecting. It isn't the normal sugar that you would put in tea, no, and this time instead it's an almost strange numbing property that almost like tingles and dances along your tongue, almost amplifying the flavor of the tea itself.
Very odd. But at the same time, it's quite delicious. Thank you.
You are welcome, then. He takes another sip. To be perfectly frank, mine tastes quite bad.
She nods. and then looks around the area.
I wish to speak to you about a few things.
And what would that be?
Your understanding of the city.
Ah, so, are you seeking a philosophical type of speech? Or are you merely seeking my 2 cents?
She seems to consider this for a second.
I think I'm more interested in the deeper philosophy behind it. If I was looking for a rundown of the scenario, I would simply ask the Tempest or the Tide.
I see.
But they're a little too lost in the practicalities of the situation to give me an accurate read. As such, I thought I should ask Momozawa the Terrible, one who apparently witnesses the world with open eyes.
Very well. I'll answer your questions for you. On one condition then.
She nods.
You must answer a few of my questions as well.
Well then, the deal is struck.
She says, and as she does, you feel almost a pulse of energy travel out from her. You can feel something hanging in the air as... Hold on, let me do this really quick. He's going to roll the die.
Ah, yes, we're going to do,
We're going to do this one. You feel it hang in the air as... And almost magic starts to coalesce around her. You feel like, at least for the moment, you absolutely cannot betray your word. Similarly, she looks back to her tea and begins to drink. She cannot do the same.
Very interesting. Very similar to that of my own.
Really?
He takes another sip of his awful tea. Albeit mine is far more direct. Yours appears to be a matter of word. That's
She nods.
In my case, I could very well hit you in the face with one of these. He points at the talisman on his face. Throw many at you, place your tea with it, and then remove an entire aspect of yourself while removing an aspect of my own. Similar bindings, but yet a way to form a connection. Wouldn't you agree?
She seems to seriously consider this.
similarly, it requires you to forge a connection then.
Yes, a connection through a mutual plus.
Well, mine doesn't take quite that much.
Her face splits open into a slight smile.
All it takes is a binding promise. Words that people intend to stick by.
I see.
Unfortunately, I don't have a choice when it activates or not.
That way is a connection through a gain then.
She seems to like that idea a lot, actually.
Oh, that's delightful. A connection through a game. Yes, that's fun. I'm going to keep that.
Very good.
Usually people say it's similar to a legally binding contract or something similar, but no, it does have more similarity to a game. Oh, speaking of which, Momozawa the Terrible.
Yes.
Do you enjoy papercraft?
Yes.
She smiles and then quietly starts to fold paper, and seems to focus in primarily on that for a little bit. She begins to fold as you enjoy your tea.
So, I have to ask, what do you think the future of this city is?
As it is right now, I see a future of a pure blank void.
A void of potential, or a void of true oblivion?
A void of absolute, utter stillness. Quite upsettingly so.
Does this concept not please you?
Not at all. In fact, it upsets me greatly. He takes another sip of his tea. While it is true I strive to seek balance throughout the entire world, Mine is a balance that seeks out progression as the reward at the end. This is a balance of stagnation, progression.
Hmm.
I cannot agree with such a thing. Such a
By your own?
philosophy is against the very necessities of the world.
By your nature, by your nature, then, do you think this requires or determines intervention?
He thinks to himself on that for a moment. To a degree, yes.
Seems to take that answer. She seems to take that answer in stride, almost going along with it. So you've chosen the path of participation, then?
Yes, albeit slightly. It's never been my way to directly involve myself in a matter unless absolutely necessary. In which case, I'll see this as a nudging of a boat on its first sail.
She seems to relax at that. Well, that begs a question. What would you do to one who seeks to upset the balance in that case? Cause waves within the void? Maybe add definition to it.
He thinks to himself on that for a moment. Such a way, it would depend on what the waves mean. Are they waves that strive to create complete and utter annihilation? Or are they waves that seek betterment?
I believe that most people cause waves seeking betterment. The city is headed by people who all believe they know the right course to chart the ship on. However, in reality, I believe they all seek that same void that you've noticed.
Yes. You're the people here, even the ones that also claim to know the right path, have unfortunately only lended further to the stagnation of this place. I believe a ripple is good in the pond, or even a ripple can help perceive the balance even further. But, in this case, ripples, they're not flowing into one another naturally. They're not creating a stream.
In that case, what is to be done about it?
He thinks to himself on that for a moment. Mayhaps a large boulder must be tossed into the very lake that this sits upon.
She seems to nod stoically with that. And then looks across. Are you the one carrying this boulder, or is it someone else?
Say at this point.
She takes an inquisitive moment. And what if I were carrying that boulder?
And it would be your choice of whether or not to throw it.
Thinking. I think I will.
Your choice. He takes another sip of his awful tea. Tell me, did you come to this place in order to find a place to rest your boulder? Or is there another reason behind it?
I believe myself to be something of a canny diplomat. I believe in addressing the largest threats first. And she looks at you straight in the face. Factions. She shakes her head. Only if you choose to be. But should you choose, if you decided to make that choice, you would certainly be one of the most formidable people within this city. But it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, you're currently set more on a course of observance and mild meddling.
Yes. I won't lie. Every now and then I may throw a pebble into the pond. But, as of right now, a boulder is slightly too heavy for my arms to carry.
She looks over. I can't say I expected that response from you.
Why is that?
Well, according to legend, Momozawa the terrible sinks cities. He causes great plagues, famines to arrive, yet he can similarly cause brilliant bounty if he so chooses. I've heard that you are a capricious being. I find that not to be the case.
That's so.
I'll be the first to admit. I'm coming to the city to pursue my own interests. My own village is a point of stagnation. My people are dying.
She, leans in.
And, to some extent, I believe to save it, I have to gouge out the heart of this city to preserve my own.
Hey, can I ask you a question about this village?
She nods. She has no choice.
Tell me. Is this death that is plaguing your people one of coincidence or one of their own making?
She relaxes. And then sits back. She's gonna roll to die. And then think about this really hard. Oh. Yeah, this one. Okay. You feel the presence in the room change again as you assert this. She turns the question over in her head a few times. And she shakes her head.
It is due to the traditions we hold.
I see.
An inevitable ending for my village. And unless it changes or pivots to something entirely new, it is still an inevitable ending for them.
I see. So not a coincidence or a people, but a spirit.
She nods.
What a sorrowful end then.
She nods again.
I was hoping to seek your advice on that subject. If you could save your own homeland by damning another, would you?
He considers that for a solid few seconds. Yes. However, my home must lose something in turn.
Her expression falls.
How so?
All, the end of all things, must be lost in order to gain. The gain without any loss, pointless. Taking from another place, merely a gain of its own. Without that, how will you be able to battle it again if you were to lose it all once again?
Oh, excellent. Can you roll to die for me? Beautiful.
Did I lock something?
You should lock something in. Your own. J-Man, I stole your technique because it was so rad. You assert this. Judgment must be rendered. There must be an even trade. At the end of all things, something must be lost in order for something to be gained. She seems to push back slightly against this concept. As your two viewpoints intermingle slightly.
I accepted my role as someone who was cruel, someone who would go to a faraway land and carve away their hopes for the future and for the sake of my own. You're telling me my own homeland has to lose?
Yes.
Why? How does that clear a greater route for the future? One land has suffered, my land gains. This land will learn from its suffering. Mine will have a future.
But that is against the very law of balance.
Give me a roll to do.
Oh, a
Excellent.
bad roll from Momozawa. Wait, hold on. I gotta check
Oh.
something.
Yeah.
Momozawa gets a +1 against her with the...
Ah, excellent. You do beat her in this case. And she seems to take this point at face value. Drop. As everything relaxes backwards.
The laws of balance, then.
Yes.
This
Just
is
one
what-
place were to tilt in a good direction, while the other tilted violently in the bad. That is no longer balance. That, the seesaw.
I sought your counsel for exactly this reason.
She finishes folding something.
We're gonna roll to die again.
Doink. Doink. She's going to roll. And then -7 on that. She folds something. It appears to be a little paper dog. She puts it down on the table in front of you. It's pretty good. It's like an okay dog.
He looks
She
down
puts-
at it. A dog.
Cute, isn't it?
He gazes into it for a while. I believe I do know people who consider that to be the case, yes.
But you don't find it cute yourself.
He thinks to himself on that a little bit. I'm being perfectly frank with you. I have a hard time perceiving anything as cute or beautiful. My eyes can only now see what is in front of them. Concepts of it all.
You don't find your balance beautiful.
He thinks to himself, for a moment. I find my balance real.
So, are imbalanced places like this one not real then?
It's a place that does exist in reality, but yet one bound by Fantasia.
And that deprives of a deeper connection to the world at large.
Yes.
I speak to you as a leader of a small village that's suffering. Not as one who witnesses the world not as one who witnesses the world in its entirety with open eyes.
She sort of smiles away.
How am I supposed to deny the success of my own homeland for the balance of a world at large that does not know or appreciate us?
He thinks on that for a moment. In the end, he pours himself another glass of tea, and he actually goes to pour her another glass, and he once again pulls out the sugar cubes and places them on the table. How about a dilemma then?
She nods.
He points at the sugar cube on the left side. The first sugar cube. This one is your standard sugar cube. One that is rather sweet. One that is bound to give whoever drinks their tea a pleasant experience, no matter what. He points at the second sugar cube. This, deceptively, one that you may assume to be sugar, nothing more than a cube of salt. Something that could look oh so similar to that sweet yet bountiful thing. Yet, if you were to consume it, your mouth would run dry. It would almost be as if instead of drinking to refresh yourself, you'll be losing all the moisture in your body in an instant. It's bound to give you an awful time no matter what. And he points at the third one. This is a pure block of nothingness. Think of it as air or dust. Does not represent anything, does not taste of anything. This will not change anything except we walk down this path. Tell me, if you could take one of these cubes and yet I get the other two, which would you take?
Oh boy. Celicia, how are you feeling? Oh, this one. Of course. She takes the cube of nothingness.
See, you have chosen the path of the in-between then. Why?
She looks at it.
To tell you the truth, I didn't consider very much what you would wind up with afterwards. I simply wanted the cube of nothingness because it interested me the most.
Yes. That is the path that if you were to walk down, you will lose the ability to see both sides. He holds both of the sugar cubes in his hand, the one of sugar and one of salt. While complete and utter perfect balance is, in its own right, a beautiful thing, you become blind to everything else in the world. That is why it must be a maintained balance, one that teeters ever so slightly, but yet still verges on the perfect balance. With this, I can see both sides of the world now. I can see the good and the bad, and in this scenario, see a much larger world than the one initially presented to me. He plops both in his tea and mixes it around, drinks it.
She plops the cube of nothingness in her tea and drinks that.
Similarly, by taking only the good, you'd lose the ability to see all of the balance and all of the bad. And if you were to take only the bad, you'd lose the ability to see all the balance and the good. It's a horizon too far away for you to view.
She exhales, drinks her tea.
And yet, you say that you have lost your ability to see that which is beautiful.
Yes.
That which is cute. She places another one down. Gonna drop, die, go. Roll to do. She rolls good. 11. She puts another one next to it. This one appears to be like a snake. She puts it down. Cute, isn't it?
He looks down at it. He looks back up at her. Suppose there are people I know in this world that would agree.
She seems satisfied by this answer to some extent. She closes her eyes.
Yet you similarly cannot see this beauty. Why? Is it that absolute pursuit of balance that's lost sight of it?
He thinks to himself on that for a few moments. No. It is not the absolute pursuit of balance that has lost it to me, no. It's the fact that I have chosen to become balance itself.
And is that an inevitability if you choose that route?
He thinks to himself, no, it is a necessity.
So, given the choice between the various cubes, you've decided to choose a route that deprives you of that which is good and beautiful for the sake of pure balance.
Yes.
You made a decision for yourself in that case.
True. He places down a scale from his pack into the center of the table. It sits on top of a small needle point, almost impossible, but yet it still maintains itself. Consider me this. If the one on the left is all that is good and the one on the right is all that is bad, then I am what is in the middle that holds it up together.
She reflects on this.
Draw it back to the sugar cubes. Which one would you pick?
He considers this to himself. Why, honestly, I would pick the sugar.
She gets a slight smile on her face as you say that.
Oh. Well, you're too busy staring at the sugar cubes, however.
She places another one down on the... Just fold again. It's... Once again, this one's a little better than the last one. She folds it up and puts down immediately next to you a little paper crane.
Cute, isn't it?
I suppose I know some people in this world who would agree.
She looks down and puts it, all three of them align next to all three of the sugar cubes. She motions with one hand.
You focus so hard on the cubes that, and your little puzzle contained within them, that you can't see all of these gorgeous, beautiful things that exist outside.
She motions to her various paper craft.
Who's to say that your choice, contained within this bubble,
She sweeps one finger around, jutting it forwards, downwards, inwards.
who's to say that your choice within this bubble is the correct choice, is the better choice, that your decisions related to balance in these cubes is more important than viewing the totality of the situation?
She motions over to the paper craft and then picks up a cube and the dog and dunks them both in her tea.
I see. Yeah, but rather He takes another sip of his sugary, salty tea. For that reason, that is why there are other necessities in this world other than myself.
She, sort of tilts her head.
Go on. There are others.
Yes. Just as I am a necessity of the world, there are necessities of good and bad. There are ones who can counteract me, I can counteract them. We are all necessary in the grand scheme of things. Even in a way, you yourself may be a necessity. Would you think of yourself as that?
Do you believe
She starts to say something else, and then something catches in her throat. She has to answer your questions, and she sort of shakes her head.
We're gonna drop? Die? This one, I see.
She nods.
I do believe myself to be a necessity.
I see. What would you believe yourself a necessity of? Cuteness.
This one. She shakes her head.
No. My role within this world is to peer beyond. To speak to and hear the opinions with open eyes of those who watch. Too often people are only willing to view.
She motions over to the table again.
One aspect of this, whether it be the dog, the crane, the cubes. They choose to cling to a certain aspect. I place my value in viewing the situation as a whole. I chose the cube of nothingness because, if presented with a choice, I would think only of what interested me most. But in that way, interest exists as its own measurement.
She motions over to the scale.
I measure my interests. I measure all things versus each other, and then I come to my own personal judgment. Concepts of good, evil, cute, good, bad, even the survival of my own country.
She moves forward slightly.
Are supposed to be beyond my eyes. I want to gaze down on all of it, becoming as pure or impure as I must be in the moment.
She looks.
As such,
Yeah, you go.
Consider yourself a necessity of gravity.
She thinks about that.
Gravity. I rather like that, yes.
Take a sip of his salty sweet tea again.
She thinks.
Gravity. It's a wonderful concept. I consider myself more a necessity of observance,
She says, sweeping her hand across.
I want to see all things and witness, judge accurately with my eyes. Balance is just a simple aspect of the world at large. As you said, you cannot experience beauty or cuteness. I hope to embody that through my observance.
Something flares around you. A sickening aura. This one feels more grotesque than before as her truer philosophy flares to life. This pressure, this aura that was bearing down on you. It's one of eyes. You're being watched from all sides constantly. Every single flower blooming into another open portal. She seems to play around again, shifting, pivoting the conversation. She is gonna go with this one. And she leans in.
Earlier, I asked if it would be fair or just to save my country at risk to this city, carve out its beating heart so that mine might live.
Yes.
I believe that should be my concern as a mortal woman. That should be my concern as a leader of my town.
Then what would your concern as a mortal be?
I find myself sandwiched. She opens one palm. On the one hand, I'm tasked with peering down on the world and observing those that observe downwards. Observing balance, observing beauty, observing rage, hate. I am to take in all of it and to decide what to do with the knowledge of the open eye. She opens up her other hand, and yet I have my concerns as a mortal. I believe I am believed to wish to save my people at risk to this city. But my desires as a mortal are far too base for that. She clenches that fist. I cannot think as a leader, one who exists somewhere between these two poles, because my eyesight has yet to catch the space between them. She holds both of her hands out to each other. My concerns as a mortal are primarily with that. She motions over to the paper craft, producing something beautiful that will make people smile, even those locked behind stony faces. And my concerns as a godly being, they are to peer down at the world. What exists between is that which I cannot see, a gap I was hoping you could fill for me.
Quite a large gap it is, then. He takes another sip of his salty sweet tea.
She sits back.
He considers for a moment.
I'm glad you understand.
May I make a suggestion?
She nods.
In order to achieve a true understanding, that we play my game for a brief.
She nods again.
He reaches into his cloak and pulls out 4 talismans and places them on the table. Very simply, place a hand upon the same talisman I place a hand upon, and then we will each lose something. But this way, as we lose more and more shall be revealed then.
She's going to really quickly fold something. That's a -1. She folds probably the single most hideous, abstract, biblical angel construction you've seen in your life, and then puts it down on the table, and then looks at your talismans.
First, you have to answer a question for me.
What is that?
It's quite cute, isn't it?
He looks at it. I'm sure there is someone in this world who would agree.
She nods.
An objectively true statement, I suppose. I'll play your game.
Very good. Let us begin then. Omozala reaches out one hand and places it on the first talisman.
She places her hand on top of yours.
We are both going to lock out an attribute at the same time.
Beautiful.
Alright, ready?
Is it like the lowest one? Do I get to pick?
You get to pick whichever attribute you lock out.
Okay, that's fun.
Ready?
Yes, I'm good.
Alright, 3, 2, 1, lock.
Excellent.
You feel a part of yourself almost seal away deep within your own body as your hand lands upon this talisman, and you feel a similar aura shift and change about the man before you.
What did you lose?
I've lost my ability to ponder. I can no longer think of what is before. I can now only see what is after.
Similarly, I lost my ability to grow, my ability to see the future. I only know what came before.
Shall we proceed then?
She nods.
Alright, he raises up his hand and he places it on the second of the talismans. Ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1, lock.
Fantastic.
Once again, you feel another part of yourself dug deeper into your very being. Another part of you lost. In this case, I have lost my ability to perceive. I can no longer see the world ahead of me. No longer able to look forward, nor can I look back. Now I am merely in the present. Nowhere else to go, nowhere else to hide.
I have lost my ability to stare up at heaven. I've also lost my ability to see the world beneath my feet. I no longer have any glimpse of that shimmering realm.
Then, let us move on to the third one. Once again, he places his hand on top of the third talisman. Ready?
Yup.
3, 2, 1, lock.
Lock. Looks over to Momozawa.
In this case, I have lost my ability to judge. I can no longer judge things as they are. I can now no longer see anything before me. There's only a void.
I've lost my ability to separate myself from the void, and now become one with it. The great nothingness that characterizes this world is the same as I.
Yes. Now then, shall we move on to the final one?
She looks at it. She's going to roll to die, and then lock this in, and then roll to do. She folds something again, and then puts it down on the table. This one's just normal bad. It's a very simple shape. Origami flower. She doesn't ask anything.
He looks at it, and he looks back up. He doesn't say anything, or he can no longer perceive.
She looks to the last talisman.
He places his hand upon it.
She places hers on it.
It is time to lock. The entire world around shifts as Momozawa seals away the last part of himself.
She's going to... Actually, I'm gonna be smart and GM layer this. Last part of Sealy also goes away as well.
He looks at feeling. I have now lost the last section of myself. Part of myself that exists to apply order to this world. Now I am nothingness. Nothing left within me. Nothing left to grow from. Nothing left to look back on. I am now just Momozawa the man. Nothing more. Nothing less.
She opens her mouth and closes it. And I've lost my hopes as immortal. This won't avail me, but... She looks. Written on that flower is a question. One that she must ask and Momozawa must answer. Even though the impetus to ask this question no longer remains. She looks at it. Momozawa the man. Do you find any of these cute?
He looks down at them, and he gazes through all the ones she has made. He lifts up the horrendously ugly snake. Oh wait, sorry, no. He actually lifts up the fucking biblical angel. Actually.
Angel, the negative one!
This one.
I see.
boggle the mind.
Her face splits into a relatively innocent smile, actually. As she seems to enjoy the fact that you picked that one. Excellent choice.
Tell me then. Do you enjoy any of your tea?
It was awful.
Wasn't it?
Did I enjoy it? No, not for a moment.
He takes another sip of his salty and sweet tea. Yes. Very rarely do I get to it. Perhaps a better title for Follow the Unlucky.
She reaches down and takes another sip. And yet, I suppose you managed to achieve that balance of yours in the end. The company was rather nice.
I would agree in this.
And I find myself unable to disagree as well. Curious thing, your magic.
He takes another sip of his tea. It's merely the connection that one may gain from something gained from that applause.
I suppose in that regard we are complete opposites. I am meant to preserve all. She exhales, having learned a deeper lesson about balance in this moment, though. I suppose that might not actually be the case. I'm meant to observe all. Then, I suppose it must fall to my judgment what is and is not revealed. It's not absolute and universal observance. It is observance, moderation, and judgment. Loss is still an important form and factor.
Yes.
A light smile plays across her lips. Something that can only be gained through loss, then. I don't dislike this.
Many great treasures may be found laid just below. It's just too dark to see from above.
She nods. Continues drinking her tea. How long do they sit there, do you think?
Oh, God. This feels like one of those conversations that went on for a shockingly long amount of time.
Like, I think this took a literal day.
Yeah. Like, that ox has been back there chewing on whatever the fuck Momozawa gave it at the start.
You spend an entire day discussing with this traveler from afar the state of the city and your truer, deeper nature. It's a weird exchange to most, but to Momozawa the Terrible, this is probably the most civilized discussion you've had in quite some time.
Yes.